getting ready for retirement. We think about it, most of our lives. We have all that free time. And then when it happens, our whole lifestyle changes because, really, Peter, everything changes. Our entire outlook on taxes, income, everything changes.
Well, you dream about it for years, for decades, and then it finally arrives. Retirement. It's a big change. So what do we do when all of those dreams actually come true and we've got all of our time available to do what we want? How do we maintain comfort, confidence, lifestyle? To talk about retirement realized here on Financial Focus, it is John Kuykendall, founder and president of GulfCoast Financial Services. Now, GulfCoast has been named best of the best in financial services 11 straight years and running, concurrent by the readers of the Lake City Reporter. So they know something about helping people realize those retirement goals. John, it is a big transition, a big change, and people need to be prepared for that change.
Yeah, Peter, I think it's really a bigger change than most people realize. Getting ready for retirement, we think about it, most of our lives. We have all that free time. And then when it happens, our whole lifestyle changes because, really, Peter, everything changes. Our entire outlook on taxes, income, everything changes. And there we are looking at our wives trying to figure out what we're going to do today, you know? And the wife wants us gone, and we want to go, but we don't know what to do.
Yeah, a lot of folks go and find a hobby career. I was in line at Home Depot here recently talking to a gentleman checking me out. He said, "I just do this for some time away from the house and some
Yeah,
spending cash."
yeah. I mean, they have you have to find something to do, and if you don't have a hobby, I mean, you can only play golf so much. I'm sure. I mean, I can't picture playing golf 5 or 6 days a week. You've got to have more than one hobby. You've got to either volunteer or do something to fill your day, make it beneficial because, all of our lives, we feel like we're productive. And when we go into retirement, we have to still feel like we're productive, either by volunteering, coming up with hobbies, going back to work, as you said, part-time, even bagging groceries at Publix. I mean, there are things that we can do to keep our day busy.
Well, planning ensures that retirement is fulfilling, not stressful. When it arrives, the reality of what we envisioned it to be might be a little different. Activities, mindset, lifestyle,
Mhm.
finances all change. One of the foundational changes, though, John, as we move through some of these things we need to address, is no more paycheck. The paycheck income is left behind. Now we must create income.
Yeah, Peter, all of our lives we're accumulating. We are taking that paycheck and putting part of it in our 401k or in investments. And so we have that check keeping us going. We have that job. So we don't really think about how we're going to spend it. We think about accumulating it. And then all of a sudden, boom, the switch is turned off, no more checks. And we have to create our own income. And that's hard for a lot of people to figure out. It's hard for them to figure out how we're going to get from A to B. But, Peter, that's why we have that financially focused income plan. It helps them come up with a budget. It helps them come up with an amount we can spend and still have the money to do the things that we want to do.
Pre-retirement, it is steady from our paycheck, from our
Mhm.
wages, showing up to work. Income no longer automatic once retirement is realized, once we're making that transition. So post-retirement, John, we've got Social Security,
Yep.
a pension, maybe if we're lucky enough to have one, and withdrawals from our savings and investments. So the goal's got to be a reliable and realistic target for that income, right?
Well, that's right, Peter, because, when we're pulling money out of our investments, we're creating new tax problems for us. During work, we don't really think too much about taxes because the paycheck will cover that they take the taxes out. You never see them. You don't think about them. At the end of the year, you do your tax return. Maybe you have to pay a little bit. Maybe you get some back, but taxes aren't a big thing. In retirement, taxes affect everything you do. how much you pay for on Social Security, how much you pay for Medicare Part B, how much, it's just on and on, your prescription drug card. All of those are indexed for income. And so we have to be careful how we pull our money out. And that's why we have to have a distribution plan of how are we going to take our money out of our accounts during retirement, because it will create problems for us if we're not careful. Taxes can be a huge part of your expenses in addition to healthcare during retirement.
One of our largest known expenses in retirement, John. Probably taxes are our largest known expense.
Yeah. I mean, taxes never really bothered me that much. But when you start getting Social Security and you're on Medicare, all of a sudden everything I do creates more expenses, more taxes for me. And so I have to be careful in what we do. And so I think everybody needs to have a tax plan, a tax efficient withdrawal strategy of how we're going to take our money out. How are we going to draw? If we got a Roth, do we take some from the Roth, some from the 401k? How do we get the income for us to live on?
Well, again, that is the financially focused written retirement income plan, ladies and gentlemen, helping you realize retirement with confidence, making sure that you can make the transition on the reliability of income from having to show up to work to no longer doing that. And if you want to do that and make that transition with confidence, you have to have a plan. The overwhelming theme of the program is going to be planning for this transition is important. But if you would like to get your financially focused written retirement income plan put together and implemented, pick up the phone, give GulfCoast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Our investments and our mentality toward our investments are going to shift a great deal as we near or enter into this transition phase into retirement as well, John.
Well, that's right, Peter. While we're working, we have time to make up losses in our 401k, in our investments. And so we can be more aggressive. And we're doing this accumulation phase. In retirement, when we're in the distribution phase, we have to be careful so that we don't lose a lot of money. We have to have a risk tolerance that we can live with so that we can come up with the best distribution plan for us. I've got a 90-year-old client who, during 2008, lost half his money. He wasn't with us. I'm happy to say I wish he was, because we wouldn't have let him do that. But he lost half of his money. Since 2008, it has affected every decision that man has made. It has affected what kind of car he buys, whether he thinks he can get a new one or a used one. Is he happy with the car? How much can they spend on groceries and all? It has affected his entire lifestyle. And that's one thing we don't want to do. We want to be so aggressive that it affects our day-to-day living during retirement.
So during our working years, we're obviously focused on earning money, making contributions to those
Mhm.
investments, growth, building wealth. And then in retirement, all of a sudden, John, it's really more about preservation, diversification, withdrawals, income, protection,
Mhm.
and making sure that things last as long as possible, not grow as much as possible.
That's right. And that's why your risk tolerance changes during retirement. We have to have a lower tolerance because there are no new earnings. We don't have time for the market losses to recover because we're pulling money out. And so as we pull money out and the market loses, we make our portfolios crash that much sooner.
Well, market downturns hit harder when we're making
Yeah,
withdrawals, right?
sure. You
Sequence
bet.
of returns risk. I was trying to come up with the name that
Yeah,
you've
that's it.
called that phenomenon before.
Yeah, and actually it works. I mean, I was amazed when we first came out with that terminology. But sequence of return risk, how the market's doing while you're pulling money out is a big factor in how long your money's going to last.
So our risk tolerance, our risk acceptance, and risk exposure,
Mhm.
therefore, John, needs to be adjusted as we are realizing this dream of retirement.
That's right. It has to be, Peter. We can't be so aggressive in retirement that we don't manage our portfolios, we don't look at them. While we're working, you throw that 401k statement in the drawer, you never open it, you don't worry about it because you're going to constantly continue to add to it. So just by dollar cost averaging, you're picking up earnings. But when retirement, that money's all you have between you and the poorhouse.
John, because taking risk has worked so well during our working career, and because we have become accustomed to it for so long over the course of that career, do retirees enough, in your opinion, really reflect and focus on this changing uh, acceptance and sustain susceptibility to risk as they are making this transition?
I think there are some that do. I think there are some that become even more conservative, maybe too conservative. I
Okay.
think there are a majority of the middle class and higher workers who really are used to risk taking and they end up taking too much risk because they don't really understand the consequences. And while everybody wants to be a winner, and if the market's making 10, you want to be able to tell your neighbor that you made 14. I mean, that's
That's
just the
what
way
we
we are.
that's what we would love, but I
Yeah.
mean, that just doesn't come about without a maybe overly exposed amount of risk, right? And
Yeah.
John, there's a great opportunity for workers, those still in their career even, who are contributing to their 401ks to begin to adjust risk at 59 and a half. And you talk about that in your book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement is Not for Wimps, that in-service distribution.
Well, with that wind service distribution, we can diversify out of the 401k and the options, investment options that the employer set up for you, and actually go into make it more diversified into investments that you have some direction in. So it becomes much easier to shift our focus and be less aggressive and more conservative by doing that in-service distribution, Peter.
And then you spoke about taxes, that in-service distribution, John, that is not going to be a taxable event to take those 401k dollars and roll them over to that IRA to get ready for retirement.
No, when we do an in-service distribution, it's going custodian to custodian. You don't touch the money. There are no taxes, no consequences. The dollar for dollar is transferred.
And then you can begin to set yourself up for creating withdrawals, creating income, and better managing the needs that we'll have once retirement is realized.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully when we retire, Peter, we're going to have we're going to still have money that's deferred, tax deferred, but we're going to have Roth IRAs. We're going to have cash. You know, so many people end up with all their money in the 401 and very little cash. We like our clients to have all three so that we've got three buckets that we can manage. And that way it helps us with the taxes.
Healthcare, another issue that we're
Uh,
really going to have to change perspective on as we are nearing or realizing that retirement goal.
Well, when you're employed, you have employer insurance, and they're picking up part of the cost. When you retire, even though we have Medicare, Peter, you're going to pick up all the cost. And it's no cheaper, really. I can tell you this that, you know, my wife and I, our Medicare Part B, our supplement, which we have to cover to take care of the deductibles that we don't have, and our drug card runs us almost between $1,000 and $1,200 a month. Now, we still have those expenses. Now, is that bad? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's $12,000, $14,000 a year that I have to budget for that I really hadn't planned on. Everybody kept saying Medicare was free. It ain't free, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And you
Uh,
have to have it because as you get older, you're going to have more medical expenses. We know that. You know, it's just out of pocket costs to add up. And then don't forget about long-term care. I
right.
just talked to a client this morning. He owns a fitness shop. He's in his 80s. He works out 4 or 5 times a day with classes. Just got diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Mm.
So, here we're looking at, okay, how are we going to cover your long-term cost, your long-term care cost? Because at some point, we're going to need 24-hour care. How are we going to cover that and still be able to leave money for your wife who's 15 years younger than he is? And so she's got a long time to go in retirement. So we need to figure out how we're going to handle all that. And we do that in the financially focused income plan.
So much to try and strive to be prepared for. I mean, so much to be excited about, right? Is
Yes,
we own
totally.
our time, we get to do what we want, we don't have to show up to work, we can take those trips, we can visit the family, but also so much to be concerned about: market volatility and creating income and taxes and inflation and healthcare events and all the rest. So when retirement is realized, we have to have a plan. And John, even down to what are we going to do with our time and activities? As we've said, maybe going out and getting a part-time job isn't a terrible idea for a lot of folks either. But with the new phase of life, you have to have that plan. And that's what that financially focused written retirement income plan is all about.
Well, Peter, as we always said, there are three phases of retirement. I tell everybody this, the go, slow go, and no go. And so when you retire, you don't want to go straight to no go. I mean, you have to have something to do because sooner or later you're going to get there. Trust me, you're going to want to sit in front of the couch and watch old Western reruns. But, there's no sense in going from retirement directly to that phase. And so we have to have something to do, something to make up our time, something that's enjoyable, and something that gives us satisfaction. And maybe that's volunteering. Maybe it's going back to work. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. We just have to find things to do.
Well, again, if you would like to get your own financially focused written retirement income plan or a copy of the book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement is Not for Wimps, just give a call to Gulf Coast Financial Services. They have been named Best of the Best in Financial Services 11 straight years and running by readers of the Lake City Reporter. Give them a call, find out why, and get your plan put together. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, always a pleasure talking with you, getting your perspective on important financial topics. And as we do move toward and realize that goal of retirement, not being blindsided by the fact that the reality might be different than the dream.
That's right. There is a dream, but must make the dream real. And we can do that through cooperation in that financially focused income plan.
Well, go ahead and give a call, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to get that put together or review and evaluate your current path and plan. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Once again, John, thank you for being here, keeping us financially focused.
Thank you, Peter. See you next week, buddy.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions. GulfCoast Financial Services, Inc. has been named as Best of the Best since 2015 in the category of Best Financial Advisor in the Lake City, Florida area. The award was based on receiving the most votes in this category from a survey offered and tabulated by the Lake City Reporter. No direct or indirect compensation was provided to the Lake City Reporter and/or any raters, and the award is not contingent on future direct or indirect compensation offered to the newspaper and/or raters. Portfolio performance is not a criterion, and voting is open to any readers of the newspaper.